Hello and welcome back to the channel for another video. Today's video will be a walkthrough of the Key Stage 2 SATs arithmetic paper, and this was the 2025 paper, and we're using this to get ready for our SATs next year in 2026. So a little bit about the paper first of all. You can see here the pass marks for the SATs for the last few years, and we're looking here at 2025 and we're looking down at the maths. So the pass mark for this paper was 58. Okay, that's the total marks needed to pass when you add all three of the maths papers together. And the greater depth score was 95. So let me just talk a little bit about why that matters and why that's important for the arithmetic paper. Well, as I said, the pass mark is 58 and you've got three papers. Okay, the arithmetic paper is out of 40. The reasoning papers are out of 35. Now, let's just say that we got 40 out of 40 on our arithmetic paper, then we would only need a combined 18 marks from the other two remaining papers. And that means that we'd only need 9 marks on either of these papers to pass the SATs overall in maths, which, given that they're out of 35, we would hopefully get more than 9 on each of these. So getting a really good score in our arithmetic paper helps us achieve that pass mark of 58. So when the children open the paper, they'll give some instructions that look like this. It'll say they'll have 30 minutes to complete the test, work as quickly and as carefully as they can, and make sure they put their answers in these boxes provided. Even if they show their work and get the right answer, if it's not written on the box, then they won't get a mark. Now, it is a quick test. There's only 30 minutes, and that's why it's important that we work through this really quickly and we choose the most quick methods for some of these questions. So starting off then, we've got a simple place value question. This is question 1. 7,549 is 7,000 plus something plus 40 plus 9. Well, given we've got the 49 here and we've got the 7,000, the only thing we're really missing is 500. So we would write that in the box for a mark. Next question is a subtraction, and we've got a 3-digit takeaway 3-digit number here. So this is learning that's come from the year 3-4 curriculum. So the questions do start off a little bit easier normally. So we're going to put this number here, 385 underneath. We'll draw our lines, and we're going to subtract from the 1. So 6 take away 5 is 1. 5 take away we can't do, so we're going to take from the 4. That becomes 3. That becomes 15. 15 take away 8 is 7. And 3 take away 0 is 0. 3 take away 3, sorry, is 0. Leaving us with a final answer of 71. And we would write that in the box provided. This question, fairly straightforward. Something multiplied by 23 equals 0. Well, to get the answer of 0, when we multiply anything by 0, we get the answer of 0. 0 groups of 233 is going to be 0. So that one's fairly straightforward. Number 4, we are adding decimals here. Now, the most important things with these questions is that we get the numbers lined up correctly. If we can do that, then we're well on our way to getting this correct. So we're going to start by putting the 47, our whole number, first, and underneath we're going to put 51. So always start with the whole numbers first when you're doing decimals. Then you want the decimal points lined up, and I like to say like buttons on a shirt, one underneath the other. Then we're going to put the 6 down, and then we're going to put the 7 down. Then we're going to put the 5, and then we've got the 8, and we've got the 3. The next real important step here is that we put any zeros in where we've got spaces, zeros to place hold. Now we are adding, just to make sure that's what we're doing here. So 0 add 3 is 3, 5 add 8 is 13, so 3 down, carry 1. 6 and 7 make 13, plus 1 is 14, so 4 down and carry 1. 7 and 1 is 8, plus 1 is 9, and 4 and 5 is 9. So leaving us a final answer of 99.433, and again, making sure that we record that in the box provided. Next question is number 5, and we've got a fairly straightforward question. It looks straightforward, but we're crossing the tens barrier. So what I like to do is just to think about what we know about these numbers. So 8 is made of 4 and 4, and we can see we've got a 4 here. So if I was doing this very quickly, I'm going to start with 904, and I'm going to take away 4, because that's what 8's made out of. It gets me to 900, and then I'm going to take another 4 away, which gets me to 896. Okay, so that's essentially what you would do in your head if you wanted to do it quickly, or you can do it this way if you just want to show some working out. Okay, next question. Now, this is why it's so important for the children to know their times tables, because if they do, this question is fairly easy and a quick one to get on with. So we're doing 84 divided by 12. Now, what do we multiply by 12 to get 84? We're using our known facts. We're using our multiplication and division facts here. If they know their 12 times table, they'll know that 7 times 12 is 84. Therefore, 84 divided by 12 is going to equal 7. I'm going to put that in the answer box. Another question that involves times tables. Now we've got our first sort of longer multiplication question, and we're going to set it out like this. I'm going to put our times sign over there. So we start off by multiplying the ones. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 down, carry 1. 3 sixes are 18, but plus that 1 is 19. 9 down, carry 1. 8 times 6 is 48. Plus that 1 there is 49. And we put both of those down, giving us a final answer of 4,992. Okay, so here we are multiplying three numbers together. Again, this is year 3 and 4 curriculum. So first I'm going to start by doing these two. I'm going to do 12 times 3, which is 36. And I'm going to take that answer and I'll multiply that by 10, which gives me 360, which is my final answer. And I need to make sure I write it in the box provided. Okay, so we've got a missing number problem here. Sometimes these can throw the children off, but I like to teach them and for them to use a bar model in this instance. So if we imagine 380 is our big bar, we know that we've got 326. Okay, but we've got something missing, and that's the number we're trying to find. What do I add to 326 to make my big bar of 380? Looking at it this way, then, we can clearly see that if we take 326 away from 380, we will get our mystery number here. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. 380, take away 326. 6 take away 0 I can't do, so I'm going to borrow. That becomes 7, that becomes 10. 10 take away 6 is 4. 7 take away 2 is 5. And 3 take away 3 is 0. So that missing number was 54. If we add those two together, we'll get 380. And that number then has to go in the missing box. Okay, another question that involves knowing your multiplication tables. So essentially we've got 72 divided by something equals 9. So we want to know our 9 times table here. So what are we multiplying by 9 to get to 72? So what I'm saying is 9 multiplied by something equals 72. And if we know our 9 times table, then we know 9 times 8 is 72. So 72 divided by 8 is going to be 9. So you can see why it's so important for children to know their times tables before they get to year 6. Okay, we've got our first sort of fractions question now. We've got 2 fifths multiplied by 5 sixths. And there's no changing of denominators to do here. We literally just multiply the top number, so that's going to be 10. Multiply the bottom numbers, so that's going to be 30. So our final answer is 10 30ths. Make sure we write the answer in the box provided. Next, we've got a division question here. 3 digits divided by 1, 540 divided by 6. Now what I like to do is use my known facts. That means that I'm going to forget that this is 540 for a minute and just do 54 divided by 6, which I know is 9. Now if I just make that 10 times bigger, and I'm going to do 540 divided by 6, it means my answer also has to be 10 times bigger. So that makes that 90, and that's my final answer. So again, knowing your times tables and known facts, really important before you get to year 6. Okay, we've got another question here that involves some multiplication. So I'm going to set it out as such. I'm going to do 7 times 8, which is 56. 6 down, I'm going to carry my 5. 0 times 8 is 0, plus the 5 is 5, and 8 times 8 is 64. Final answer, 6,456. Okay, we come to our first long multiplication. So these questions are worth 2 marks, and that's because there's quite a bit involved to the answering these. And I would say that there's a couple of steps that we need to make sure we remember. So let's go through it. 614 multiplied by 32. So first of all, let's start with the ones. 2 fours are 8. I'm going to put that down. 1 2 is 2, and 2 times 6 is 12. First important step is when you're multiplying the tens over here, you need 0 as your placeholder. You have to put that in, otherwise you'll get this incorrect. 4 times 3 is 12. 2 down, carry 1. 1 times 3 is 3, plus 1 is 4. And 6 times 3 is 18. Now, just to stop any confusion, I'm going to get rid of that 1 that I've carried, because I need to now add these together. 8 and 0 is 8. 2 and 2 is 4. 2 and 4 is 6. 1 and 8 is 9. And then 1. Final answer of 19,648. So if we had done all of that working and forgotten to write our answer here, we might get 1 mark. So it's important to show your working. If we'd have done some of the working out, but some of it wrong, we might have still got a mark. But even if you don't show any working at all, and you still get the correct answer in this box, you'll still be given 2 marks. But I do say to all my students, it's better to show your working. Okay, so here we've got another division. I'm going to use our known facts again. So I'm going to start off by forgetting these 2 zeros and doing 20 divided by 4, which gives me 5, because I know that from my times tables. Now, if I make that 2,000 divided by 4, this number has become 100 times bigger. So my answer, therefore, has to become 100 times bigger. And I'm going to make that 500. That's my final answer. Okay, so question 16. We have got a decimal number, and we're multiplying decimals this time. So I'm going to write down 8.9, and I'm going to write 3. So in the same way we would do any other multiplication, I'm just forgetting about the decimal for now. 9 times 3 is 27. 7 down, carry 2. And 3 eighths are 24, plus 2 is 26. And now we put the decimal point back in. 26.7. So don't get put off by decimal points. Remember, you can always take them out and put them back in at the end, but you're multiplying in the same way you would any other number. Okay, so this question is dividing by 10. Some children will be able to do this in their heads, but this is the kind of question that I often see children make common mistakes with. Now, because of that, I want to guarantee that they get the mark, and it takes maybe a few seconds, a few seconds of their time, but it's worthwhile doing it, especially if you're multiplying or dividing by more than 10, like 100 or 1,000. Draw out a place value chart. So hundreds, tens, and ones. Decimal point will be here. Then we've got tenths, and we've got hundredths. Okay, put the number in. So 326.8. And now what I'm going to do, when we're dividing by 10, we are jumping 1 jump, as I like to say, to the right. Okay, so all of these numbers are going to go right 1 jump. So the 8 is going to go into here to the hundredths. The 6 is going to move over here into the tenths. The 2 is going to move into the ones. And finally, the 3 is going to move into the tens. Put my decimal point back in. And I can see now with more certainty that these numbers have all been divided by 10, give me a final answer of 32.68. Now, you may be able to do that in your head, but I always say draw out the place value chart just to be certain you have moved the numbers to the correct places. Okay, next question. We are subtracting fractions now. We've got 1/3 take away 1/9. And the first time here, we've got different denominators. So we need to make these the same. First of all, what's the relationship between these two numbers? Well, 3 multiplied by 3 is 9. So I'm going to keep that the same, but I need to make this into ninths. Well, whatever I've done to the bottom, I must do to the top number. Okay, and that's the rule with these fractions when changing denominators. So I multiplied the bottom number by 3 to get to 9. So I'm going to do 1 times 3, and that's going to make my numerator 3/9. 3/9 take away 1/9 gives me a final answer of 2/9. Okay, so our next question, we've got a division question. And for this, we're going to use short division. So 896, or some people like to call it the bus stop method. Big number goes under the bus stop, small number on the outside. Start off by doing 7 into 8. Well, 7 goes into 8 once, and it's going to have 1 remainder. 7 into 19. It goes twice, because you've got 7 times 2, which is 14. Okay, but 7 3s are 21, which is too big. So it goes in twice. What's the remainder? What's the difference between 19 and 14? It's 5. We'll put that there. 7's into 56. If we know our times tables, 7 times 8 is 56, giving me a final answer of 128. Okay, question 20. And it's a subtraction question, but with the added difficulty that we're subtracting big numbers here. We've got millions. So the most important thing with this question is that we put the numbers in the correct places. So 1,004,235. And then we've got tens of thousands and thousands. Okay, so where are they going to go? Well, my tens of thousands, my 50 is going to go here. My 2 is going to go here. My 3 is going to go here. My 4 in the tens. And finally, my 6 in the ones. Now I've got all my numbers lined up. I can do my subtraction. So 5 take away 6 we can't do. Can't borrow from there, it's too small. Can't borrow from there, it's too small. So I'm borrowing from the 4. The 4 becomes 3, that becomes 12. That becomes 11, that becomes 13. 13 becomes 12, and then 5 becomes 15. 15 take away 6 is 9. 12 take away 4 is 8. 11 take away 3 is 8. 3 take away 2 is 1. And then we've got 0 take away 5. We can't do that. Can't borrow from there. So we go all the way to the millions. That becomes 0. That becomes 10, which becomes 9. And that becomes 10. 10 take away 5 is 5. And then 9 take away 0 is 9. Leaving us with a final answer of 951,889. Okay, so on to the next question. 4,104 divided by 9. Again, I'm going to use my short division for this one. 4,104 divided by 9. So 9 into 4 we can't do, so we're going to do 9 into 41. So we know our 9 times table. We know that 9 times 5 is 45, which is too big. So we're going to do 9 times 4 is 36. Okay, so I'm going to put 4 here. But what's the difference between 36 and 41? Well, the difference is 5, isn't it? Yeah, so it's 5. So I'm going to put the 5 there. 9's into 50. This time it is 9 times 5 is 45. So I'm going to put 5 here. But then I'm going to put the remainder over here next to the 4. We've got a remainder of 5. 9's into 54. That's easy. It goes in 6 times. A final answer of 456. Okay, so now we've got adding fractions, but we've got 3 different denominators. So we want to make all the denominators the same. So we've got 1/6, add 2/3, add 3/12. Okay, and we can see there is a relationship between these numbers. Okay, so 6, 3. Okay, we're going to keep the 12ths the same. So I'm going to keep 3/12 as 3/12. And I need to change these two. So how do I get from, if I just use this space over here, so 3/12, keep that the same. How do I get from 3 to 12? Well, I times by 4, okay? So whatever I do to the bottom, I must do to the top. All right, so 3 times 4 is 12, so then 2 times 4 is 8. That makes 2/3 into 8/12. And again, how do I get from 6 to 12? This time I'm multiplying by 2. Multiplying by 4. So whatever I do to the bottom to make it 12, I need to do the top. 2 times 1 is 2. Now I have them all as 12ths. I can add them together. 2 and 8 make 10, and plus 3 makes 13/12. Now that is one correct answer, but if you wanted to write it as a mixed number fraction, I could write 1 whole, because we've got 12/12 and 1/12 remaining. 1 whole and 1/12. Both of those are correct answers. 17 take away 3, so put my whole numbers down first, decimal points like buttons on a shirt, and then put my 6 here, and most importantly put my 0 down to placehold. I'm going to draw my lines. Okay, so we're going to have to borrow here because it's take away. So 7, I'm going to take that, I'm going to borrow 1, that becomes 6, that becomes 10. 10 take away 6 is 4, 6 take away 3 is 3, and 1 take away 0 is 1. Put my decimal point back in. It gives us a final answer of 13.4. Okay, we are adding now. We've got a mixed number fraction, 2 3/5. Add 1 3/5. Okay, so I like to add my whole numbers first, but you could also make these into improper fractions and add them. So one way is to add the 2 and the 1 together first, which makes 3. And then luckily these denominators are the same. So 3/5 add 3/5 make 6/5. Okay, so we've got 3 and 6/5, but now we need to make this into mixed number fractions. So 6/5 becomes 1, which we can then add to the 3 to become 4, but we've got 1/5 left over. So we've got a correct answer of 4 1/5, or we could make it mixed number. 4 times 5 equals 20, plus that 1, 21. So you've got 2 different answers here that are both correct. You've got 4 1/5, or you've got 21/5. Either are correct, okay? But I would just choose to write 1 in the box. Okay, so one of my favorite types of questions, and the first one on the test paper, percentages. Now, the go-to method that I like to use, and just to let you know, there are many methods that you can use for this, but the one that I feel like is the least confusing and the least amount of steps, personally, it's not for everyone, is the method I'm going to show you now. So I like to do 860 multiplied by the number that's, well, the percentage we're looking for. So we do 0 times 5, which is 0. 6 5s are 30. 0 down, carry the 3. And 8 times 5 is 40. Plus 3 is 43. And then because we're looking at percentages, which means out of 100, I divide the final answer by 100, which is usually means I just have to cross out 2 zeros. And that's my answer, therefore, is 43. Now, I find that really simple, straightforward, and easy to do. Other ways are to find 1% and times by 5, but I find this way the easiest. Just to bear in mind as well, with this question, they don't accept in the mark scheme 43%. So make sure you write the number and don't get confused by trying to put a percentage sign on there. Okay, so another favourite question of mine, because it looks difficult, but it's actually simple to work out. We're doing 5/8, a fraction, divided by a whole number, an integer. So the rule I say to the children that I teach is, first of all, can you do the numerator divided by the whole? Sometimes you can. So if this was 9, I could do 9 divided by 3, and that would be 3/8. But on this occasion, I can't do 5 divided by 3. So all you do in that instance is you multiply the denominator instead. So then you multiply 3 by 8, which makes 24, and you keep the numerator the same. So our answer here is 5/24. Really straightforward. Tricky question, looks tricky, but easy to work out. Okay, we've got another percentage question here, another kind of question that I really enjoy doing. And my preferred method is to multiply these numbers together and divide by 100. Let me show you what I mean. So 2,300. First of all, I'm going to multiply that by 19. 0 times 9 is 0. 0 times 9 is 0. 3 9s are 27. 7 down, carry the 2. 2 9s are 18. Plus 2 is 19. 20. Okay, then I'm going to do the next part. Again, when you're multiplying by 10s, you use 0 to placehold. 0 times 1 is 0. 0 times 1 is 0. 3 times 1 is 3. And 2 times 1 is 2. Final step for this is to add them together. 0, 0. 7 add 0 is 7. 3 add 0 is 3. 2 add 2 is 4. And because you're looking at percentages, we have to divide the answer by 100. And that's easy. We just cross out those 2 zeros. Give me a final answer of 437. So just to reiterate, the 2 steps are multiply these 2 numbers together, get your answer, divide it by 100. And that often means just crossing out the zeros. There you go. All right, so we move on now to our first long division question of the paper. Like long multiplication, it's worth 2 marks. It's quite a bit of working out to do. If you show you're working but you get your answer wrong, you can still get a mark. Now, just to speed up this process, I've actually got my jottings here, but in the test they wouldn't be there on the paper. So you would need to, your first step would be to make your jottings. And you'd have to do 1 times 17, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. I tend to go down to about 7 times, okay? Because once you've got that amount, it's usually you don't have to go further. So occasionally you do, but that's what I say to the children. Go to about 7 times 17. I know a lot of children don't know their 17 times table, so you have to work these out. But once you've done it, it makes solving this question a lot easier. Let me show you why. So 17 into 8 doesn't go. Put a 0 here. What about 17 into 88? Well, now we can look at our jottings, and we can see that 6 times 17 is 102, which is too big, but it will go in 5 times. So I put my 5 there, and I put my answer, 85, underneath. Now I'm going to take away. I'm going to take this number from this number to see what's left over. 8 take away 5 is 3. 8 take away 8 is 0. What do I do next? I bring down the 4. I put the 4 here, and now I check how many times does 17 go into 34, and it does go in 2 times. And why I like long division so much is because it usually works out without any remainders. So my final answer is 52, making sure I remember to write it in the box. So you can see how having the jottings there before you start really helps to solve these questions. Okay, next question, we've got fractions. We're doing a mixed number fraction, 2 and a 6th, and another fraction, but the denominators this time are different. So I need to work out a common denominator for these 2 numbers. The easiest way to do that is to look if you can multiply them together, which I can. 6 5s are 30, so that's going to be my denominator. I want to put both of these fractions in 30ths. Now, I'm going to make this a mixed number fraction by multiplying 2 by 6, which is 12, and then I add that one, which makes 13. So we've got 13 sixths, okay, and we've got over here 2/5 still. So what I want to do now is, how do I get from 6 230? Well, I times by 5. Now remember, whatever you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. Now 13 times 5, you may have to do some more jottings, but if you can do it in your head, 5 times 10 is 50, 5 times 3 is 15. So that makes 50 and 15, 65. So we've got 65 30ths, add, and how do we get from 5 to 30? We multiply by 6. Whatever we do to the bottom, we do to the top. 2 6s are 12. So now I've got 65 30ths, add 12 30ths. And if I add those together, 6 and 10 is 70, and 5 and 2 is 7. 77, but not forgetting this is a fraction, so it must go over the number 30. That is actually the correct answer. You could also make this a mixed number fraction, which will be 2 and 17 30ths. The next question, as we come towards the end of the paper, a lot of these get quite tricky now, and this is a long multiplication and a 2-mark question. So I'm going to set it up, 6,419, 74 underneath. Make sure I've got it in clearly, and I can see where my numbers are, and they're in the right columns. Starting with the ones then, 9 4s are 36. Put my 6 down and carry my 3. 1 4 is 4, but plus the 3 is 7. 4 4s are 16. 6 down, carry 1. And 6 4s are 24, plus 1 is 25. Right, that's the first bit done. Now for the 10s. Remember, I need a 0 to place hold before I do any of the 10s working out. 7 times 9 is 63. Okay, so I'm going to put my 3 down and carry my 6 this time. 1 times 7 is 7, plus 6. 1 times 7 is 7, plus 6 is 13. All right, 3 down, carry 1. 4 times 7 is 28, but plus that one there is 29. 9 down, carry 2. And then 6 times 7 is 42, but then we've got those two there, which makes 44. Now, the next step is to add these together. Now, if I'd have gotten to this point, I may get a mark for showing my working out if I don't get my answer correct. So that's why it's important to show your working. 6 add 0 is 6. 7 and 3 is 10. 0 down, carry 1. 6 and 3 is 9. Plus that one there is 10. 0 down, carry 1. 9 and 5 make 14. Plus that one is 15. 5 down, carry 1. 2 and 4 make 6. Plus that one is 7. And then add the 4 at the end. Final answer is 475,006. So it's a long question, that's why it's worth 2 marks, but working like this, checking your answer afterwards, making sure you put your placeholder in here, you should at least get a mark, and if you get the correct answer, you'll get 2. Right, okay, another favourite question of mine. This involves BIDMAS. Well, what's BIDMAS? This tells us the order in which I have to solve this question, because if I don't do it in the correct order, I won't get the correct answer. So what we start with BIDMAS is the first letter B, which stands for brackets. So anything in the brackets, we have to make sure that we do first. So the I stands for indices as well, so we have to do that as well as part of this bracket. So I'm going to do 5 multiplied by 5, because I've got 5 squared there, which makes 25. Then do the other part that's in the bracket, add the 3. That gives me 28. Then I can do, what's next? Division, D. Okay, so now I'm going to do 12 divided by 4, which makes 3. And now I can do 28, the subtraction part, which is the bit that's left, take away 3, 28, take away 3, gives me 25. And that's the correct answer. But if I hadn't have done it in that order, I wouldn't have got the answer. So remember, if you get a question like this, where you've got brackets, indices, different operations, write down BIDMAS in your test to remind you of what the order is that you need to do it in. Okay, another percentages question, one of my favorites. So the way I like to do this is to multiply these together first and then divide by 100. So I'm going to do 540 multiplied by 65. 0 times 5 is 0. 4 5s are 20. 0 down, carry 2. 5 5s are 25. Plus 2 is 27. Then I'm multiplying the 10, so I need my placeholder. 0 times 6 is 0. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 down, carry 2. 6 times 5 is 30. Plus the 2 is 32. Now add these together. So we've got 0 add 0 is 0. 0 add 0 is 0. 7 add 4 is 11. So we've got 1 there, carry 1. 2 and 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. And then 3 add nothing is 3. The last step, not forgetting, is to divide by 100, which for mostly we just cross out those 2 zeros. That's my favourite bit. So the final answer is 351. Okay, so we've got a whole number and a fraction, and now multiplying by another whole number. So there's different ways of doing this, but I like to remind the children that this symbol here, although it means multiply, also means of. Okay, and why that's important, I'll show you in a minute. I'm going to do 3 times 12 first of all, which gives me 36. And what I've got left to do then is a third times 12, or a third of 12. Now, if we say a third of 12, then I know that I need to divide that by the denominator. So 12 divided by 3 is 4, multiplied by 1, divided by the bottom, multiplied by the top, is going to be 4. A third of 12 is 4. Don't forget to add that to 36. 36 add 4 gives me 40, and that's my final answer. Okay, so as we come towards the end of the paper, we get a really tricky long division question. But as I said before, if you have your jottings written down, it makes this a lot easier. Now, in the interest of time, I've got my jottings here already, but these won't be here in the test paper. You would need to do these yourself. So take a little bit of time to just write the 45 times table. And I know a lot of you don't know that off the top of your head, so you'll have to work it out and go to about 45 times 7, because usually you don't need many more numbers than that. You might occasionally, but that's what I say to my students, is go to about 7 times. Now, when you've got your jottings there, it's going to make the working out of this sum a lot easier. So 45, and underneath my bus stop, I've got 8,190. First of all, 45 into 8 doesn't go, so put a 0. Does it go into 81? Well, let's check the jottings. Goes in once, goes in twice. No, it doesn't go in twice. It only goes in once. So I put my 1 here, and I put my 45 underneath, okay? Now I'm going to subtract. 1 take away 5 I can't do. Borrow, that becomes 7. That becomes 11. 11 take away 5 is 6, and 7 take away 4 is 3. What do I do next? I bring the 9 down. So now I've got 369. How many times does 45 go into 369? Let's check. Well, it goes in 8 times, not 9 times because it's too big. So it's going to go in 8 times. I'll put my 8 here, and I'll put my answer, 360, underneath. Now let's do the subtraction. 9 take away 0 is 9. 6 take away 6 is 0. And 3 take away 3 is 0. Next thing I need to do is bring the 0 all the way down. That comes to next to the 90. And this is why I like long division so much. 45 into 90 goes twice. So that's going to put a 2 up there. And there's no remainders. There's nothing left over. And that's why I like long division so much. So my answer, by the way, is not 90. It's how many times it went in total, which is 182. And that would give me 2 marks. If I didn't get the right answer, but I showed my working, I might still get a mark. So that's why it's important to show your working out. Okay, so now we've got a fraction multiplied by a whole number. And just like I said before, I like to tell my children that that sign there means multiply, but it also means of. Now, in this case, then, I need to do 3/8 of 240. So I'm going to divide by the bottom. I'm going to multiply by the top. Using my known facts, 240 divided by 8. Well, 24 divided by 8 is 3. So 240 divided by 8 is going to be 30. But then 30 multiplied by this numerator, 30 times 3 gives me 90. And that would be my final answer. 36 then, final question on the paper, and it is a tricky one. We've got 4 3/7, take away 1 1/6. So we need to make these have the same denominator, but first I'm going to subtract my whole numbers. So 4 take away 1 equals 3. I need to remember that for the end. And now I need to find a common denominator for 7 and 6. Well, if I multiply them together, I get 42. So I've got 42, and 42 is going to be my denominator. Don't forget I'm taking away here. So how do I get from 7 to 42? Well, I multiply by 6. Whatever I do to the bottom, do to the top. Okay, 6 times 3 is 18. And how do I get from 6 to 42? I multiply by 7. Whatever I do to the bottom, do to the top. 1 times 7 is 7. So 18 take away 7 gives me 11. Don't forget my 3 over here. So it's going to be 3 wholes and 11 over 42. And that will be my final answer, and I mustn't forget to write it in the box. Okay, thanks for watching today. I hope you find that useful. The SATs will be happening in May. and hopefully you'll find this video useful to help with your arithmetic test. Remember, if you can score high in the arithmetic test, it gives you a really good chance of passing. Please check out the channel for more videos. I'll be doing one on a grammar paper coming out soon. If you like the video, please give it a like, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.